This podcast was created with Anchor. It's the easiest way to make a podcast. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute the podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to get started in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome to the Ambiguous Show, a podcast for those who live in the in-between. I am your host, Ashley Blake. Guys, thank you so much. This is episode 3. I'm just really grateful for everyone who's been listening. You know, I didn't really expect much because it's the beginnings and, nothing really starts off amazing. Most of the time things start off like a little baby giraffe that's like trying to walk and you're like, oh, that's cute. It's not quite walking, but it's cute. That being said, I know that I've heard from a number of people who really connect to the idea of what we're doing here. And so I just want to say thank you. Thank you for hanging in with us in the beginnings. Honestly, I'm really honored that anyone is listening, let alone so many of you. So thanks. I'm really excited for all of the things to come. I have got some things planned. I've got some people that I want to invite on the show. I think you guys are going to love it. Today you got me. So hooray for that. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you. This is awesome. I don't know if you saw, we have a line of merch that just launched this last week. You can see it on the website at moida.co, moida.co. It's in a store. Check it out. We have a whole multicultural line, which is fantastic, if I say so myself. Multifaceted. We've got a lot of things in there. I mean, a lot for like just starting. So check it out. Support the cause. We love you guys. All right, here we go. Today we're going to talk about multiculture versus monoculture. It's so windy outside. My wind chimes are going crazy right now. Can you hear it? Oh wow, this is incredibly... Does it feel like I'm whispering in your ear? I think that's a little much. I'm going to ignore the wind chimes in the back. Hopefully it feels really restful or relaxing or something. Maybe you can't hear them as much as I do right now. But so we're going to talk about multicultural life versus living monoculturally. I think it's really important to talk about this. I personally, my existence has always been multicultural from inception. My mother is American and my father is Jamaican. And for part of my childhood, I grew up in Kazakhstan. So even my own family has a lot of different cultural influences. And, just depending also on location as well. And if you actually talk to my siblings and I, it's interesting, you can grow up in the same household and still experience things very differently. I don't know what I'm saying. From my childhood, even into my experiences here in the U.S., like in high school and moving on from that, I would say that I generally was always the only of sorts in the room, whether it's the only Black person or the only female or the only like fill in the blank. A lot of times I would try to talk to people, and I fully believed that I made sense in my mind, like totally. And I was like integrating different languages without knowing, but like not always correctly. People ask how many languages I speak, and I always tell them I speak none well. Like I am confident in 0 languages. But I would talk, or like, I don't know if this happens to anyone else, but in high school I had to take Spanish, and people generally say Spanish is really easy, but I have like a one-track brain. And so what it does is it says, Ashley, don't speak in English. And then it's a free-for-all of what comes out, like free for all. And so that was always tricky. People would speak to me in Spanish and I would like respond in Russian or something else. Not sure where we're heading with this one, but the main point is just saying that I've always been surrounded by people who are not like me in every kind of spectrum, all of the groupages. I was super involved in a lot of different things. I literally got a job the day I turned 14. I was an athlete. I was in almost every club at the school while in marching band and chorus, because apparently I never slept. I still am super involved in a lot of different things. If you look at the organizations that I'm a part of, or the places that I've worked, I have 17 jobs at any given point in time. I don't know why I am this way, but I just enjoy a lot of different things. But I also have always valued the idea of having differences. It's usually really hard to build bridges in places and communities with people who aren't like you, but I also feel like it's really necessary. And so I've often found myself being the first of whatever category to enter the room, even in the arts world, of like, there's like this hierarchy of like real artists, you know, like visual artists and painters and whatnot. And a lot of times on arts organizations or in arts councils, there's just a priority of of what people want to support or promote. And so it's really interesting sitting in rooms with people who are making decisions and trying to give a more whole vision of representation. You would be amazed at how often people just don't think outside of their normal boxes. So just as an example, if you're in a community of people who want to support artists and all they've ever known are painters, then yeah, they're only going to support painters, even if they say that, you know, they want to support the arts as a general statement. And so when you look at other communities, you know, any racial communities or just, you know, towns that say that they want to support fill in the blank, they generally just go based off of what they know. And so the problem is when you live in a monoculture society, you just have a lot of people supporting one thing because they don't know any different or they don't see any different. And that's why it's so important to have different perspectives at the table, because you're just going to miss so much when you're only thinking about the one thing that you know. So is that my introduction? Who knows? So yeah, a little bit about monoculture, because I honestly would say most people in current society, most people, I will give the benefit of the doubt that they're not choosing actively in their mind to live in a way that is monocultural. Generally speaking, there are good-hearted people who just have no awareness because it's completely normal to them. Traditionally speaking, the idea of like purity amongst race, like that's been pretty normal in white history. There is history to that, and there is a lot of generational stuff with that, but commonly speaking, the people that you'll have conversations with that are like, I'm not racist, I just only talk to white people and only work in organizations with white people and only have play dates with white kids. A lot of them just don't know any better. Because to be honest, it is so much easier to live life with people who are just like you. There's a lot of cultural commonalities between people of certain races. That's just easier than trying to explain yourself all the time. Like, it's really hard to constantly have to give definitions to words or give definitions to rituals or give definitions of like everyday life constantly because people are just outside of that circle. There's a book that I read my freshman year of college, which was actually really influential to my processing my identity once I got to that age, which identity is like a constant process that we go through. But it's called Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria and Other Conversations About Race by Beverly Daniel Tatum. It was so important to me at that point in my life, this question. It is actually really interesting. In the book, at one point, she says school administrators were basically asking, like, psychiatrists, why are Black kids sitting together and what can be done to prevent it? Which is so interesting. Not just like, I wonder why that's happening, but like, can't we make it stop? Like, we don't want them just hanging out by themselves because that's scary. I'm not going to go down that train, but what she said was really interesting in response. Racial grouping as a developmental process in response to an environmental stressor. Racism. Joining with one's peers to support in the face of stress is a positive coping strategy. So when you think about monoculture as a defensive mechanism, because we realize that there's this experience that other people of my color can understand just by existing. And therefore, it's a lot easier because I don't have to explain it to them. And I don't have to get validation of my emotions. And I don't have to fill in the blank. It's so much easier to not have to argue and to have people just understand. It's easier. But that doesn't mean that it's better. For someone like me, I've always loved being in multicultural environments. Not just because I value culture in general, but honestly, for a person like me, I really liked that it made like kind of an even playing ground because everyone had to try hard. Especially in my younger years, I was really selfish. I wanted everyone to struggle as much as I did to like find their place. Like in monoculture, like you don't have to try that hard. You just have to show up and people kind of accept you, you know, for existing for the most part. Now, we can spin off into the whole Black people that aren't accepted by Black people or white people segment, but that's not for today. In any multicultural environment, everybody has to do work because it's hard. It's not going to be successful if only one person does the work and then the other person is just there. Like it's not going to be sustainable at all. So why is it hard? I am recording this the day after the Derek Chauvin verdict. I spent a lot of time last night being sad. I'm still pretty sad. Not about the verdict. I'm really saddened by the comments that I read online. Why is it hard? Because people who have grown up in a monoculture generally lack empathy. When you live in a monoculture, you really don't have to exercise empathy too often. And that's why it's so hard for me when I read comments and it breaks my heart that people can be so bold to be so rude when they have no understanding of the situation or the emotions attached to it. When you live in a multicultural environment, empathy is one of the most important things because you recognize early that none of our experiences are alike. Like I said, me and my siblings, even in the same household, we grew up with very different outlooks and inputs. We experienced a lot of different things. None of our experiences are alike. And that is the same in any town, in any school, in any house. There's this trait that I actually like about myself of being able, I don't know if it's comfortable, but being used to being uncomfortable in conversations or in environments, and not in a dangerous way, like not like my safety is at risk. I mean, sitting with people when it doesn't feel good to, when it's hard, even within my own family, when people are saying things that I don't believe in or that hurt me because I know people who are directly affected by this, or when people are just legitimately talking about a category of people that they don't know I have strong relation to. If you're talking about any group of people, I mean, there's someone that is close to me that falls in that group. People generally are really uncomfortable about not knowing, about being ignorant, and not like the kind where like you decide to be ignorant, but like being okay with the fact that you don't understand someone's experience because it's foreign to you. That is normal. I don't know why people feel so strange about someone sharing their experience and then they get offended by it, or they devalue it because they don't understand how that could be an experience. That can't be true. I've never seen it or heard of that. That can't be real. And it's crazy because honestly, what people want most when we have these really difficult conversations about race or about discrimination or any of those kinds of things, people generally just want you to listen and believe them. Like, we should just have the benefit of the doubt that someone's feelings are valid. Even if you don't understand them, their feelings are valid to them. Like, you are not the judge of whether someone experienced an emotion or not, or experienced a hardship. You don't get to decide if someone's trauma is traumatic enough. And for some reason, I don't know, man. I am going to be the number one person to say your voice and your story matters. But you have to believe that same thing about the person next to you. And sometimes it's your turn to listen. Like, can we cultivate the skill of listening? Like, if we're going to teach the next generation anything, can we teach them how to listen well? That's something that I'm still working on. I had a friend a couple weeks ago share a story. And for some reason that day, I really needed it to be about myself. And I was like, yeah, I experienced something like that. And I went off on an emotional tangent because it was something that I related to, and I went down into a different place. But in that moment, I actually had to go back and apologize to that person because I disregarded their story and their emotion. And that is not something that I ever want to do, but we have to be aware that that is really common in relationships, to disregard what that person has offered you and to make it about you. And they're like, in life, it is very rarely about you or me. Like, it is not just about one singular person. And when someone takes the risk of sharing something with you that is deep and matters to them, when you disregard it, it's just, it made me sad. So I sat in sadness a lot last night. Oh, there's another thing that was in this book. I'm just going to read it off the page. Because she says, she interviewed a young woman who said, when I say that I want to want understanding, it does not mean that I'm looking for sympathy. I merely want people to know why I'm angry and to not be offended by it. And that has honestly been probably one of the biggest things that I've felt over these last few years. Beverly Daniel Tatum, she writes after this paragraph, in order for there to be meaningful dialogue, fear, whether anger or isolation, must eventually give way to risk and trust. Risk and trust. See, it's risky to operate in environments where people aren't like you. It's risky to put yourself out on the line. It's risky because you don't know if people are going to agree with you or be angry with you or be hurt with you. Even when I say things on this podcast, there's a lot of things that I don't say or haven't said over a few years because I know that I'm involved in so many different communities and with so many different people that I don't want to hurt anyone or devalue anyone's experiences. But the thing is, at the end of the day, being silent is actually probably more dangerous than being wrong. Why is it important to embrace multicultural? We live collectively and we genuinely need each other's perspectives and voices. We miss out on so much when we live in limiting boundaries. Honestly, the best experiences that I have in life are from people who are vastly different than I. Or even one of my favorite things now as an adult is to talk to people that I grew up with in places. Even when I reminisce about living in Kazakhstan, and I have such special memories there. And that's not the case for everyone. You know, I had a really beautiful experience living there, but I know people that found things to be really difficult. And it's interesting with age how we learn so much just by putting pieces of the puzzle together, right? My story, I put in a puzzle piece. My friend's story adds another puzzle piece. Every different perspective helps us see the bigger picture clearer, with more color, more accurately. We need each other. And, you know, not only just like because other cultures are fantastic and food is fantastic and everything is... There's just so much goodness when you bring people together. I just really wanted to share this today because I wanted to encourage you guys to look at the people who are closest to you or the organizations that you're a part of, who you work with, who you bring your kids around. If everyone you're close to looks like you or believes everything that you believe, exactly, maybe you should start having some conversations with some new people. And I'm not saying that you have to look like the UN, although personally, like that's like my dream life. Like when I talk to people about, like if I could ever write a high school TV show, it would literally be full international school Crazy Town. Like, and it's super cheesy to most people, but it's like literally my favorite parts of my life are how no one in half of the places that I ever was like were from the same country or spoke the same language. I love that. I love that we're all speaking like the second language that we know. I think that is so beautiful. I don't know where I went, y'all. Anyways, I just encourage you guys. Sometimes we got to do the hard stuff. But it always makes life more beautiful. Also, just check in on your friends of color. Man. I mean, we've always been colored, but like this last year has been really emotional and really triggering to a lot of people. And show some kindness to your friends today. Well, all right. Okay, guys, it's time for things no one pays us to love. But I wish they would. No, just kidding. Okay, things no one pays us to love. This week, I gotta talk about, if you're local, I hope you're local because this place is in Durham. Koku na Maine. Okay, let me tell you. I love food. I genuinely love food. And this place has been holding me down emotionally. I just want to say that I have, in fact, driven an hour to go here to eat food. Y'all, and I mean, anytime I'm in Durham, I usually stop by, but sometimes you just have to go to Durham just to eat there. And yes, Durham is an hour away from me, but it is worth it. Okay, their menu is incredible, but let me tell you, because I might be going there today to order this, they have a Korean fried chicken sandwich. It's got gochujang, mayo. It's got samjang on it. They got daikon kimchi. Now, first of all, I am growing daikon right now. Like I have like 3 raised beds of daikon because that's how real it is for me. And they have seaweed salad. Like they are doing all of the things for my life right now. They're incredible. If you're local, you need to go there. Check them out on Instagram. Even if you're not, put it on your like save places to go to in your Google Maps. On Instagram, it's at KO_KYU. Check them out. Hit them up because it is delicious. It's so cool. You can like order from your phone. They just bring it out to your car, or they have tables outside. They have milkshakes, all that stuff. I can't have dairy, so Jesus help me. But yes, check them out. It's like my go-to spot of the moment. Okay, guys, thank you for hanging in with us today. I just want to remind you again, if you got a question, a story, a shout out, hit us up at hello@moida.co, HELLO@MOIDA.co. We want to hear from you guys. We want to connect. Check us out on Instagram at The Ambiguous Show. Our shop is open, so don't forget to check that out. And as always, you are exactly who you need to be. Your voice and your story matter. Go out there, change the world. Bye, guys.